Hey everybody, I'm John Self and welcome to Career Live. Running a few minutes late this morning. This is a broadcast we used to do on Thursdays, and we're still working on some technical issues with the new studio. But we're delighted you're here. We've had some good questions already sent in. If you want to submit your questions live, we will not use your name or your full name. If you just want us to use maybe your name, first name, and geographic part of the country, we're happy to do that, but not going to use full names because, this is looking for a job or managing your career is really a confidential issue. So we're delighted you're here today. I'm John Self. I spent, 27 years in executive search and decided I'd had all the traveling I wanted to do. I worked across 40 states, 6 countries and 4 continents over a 27-year career. So I've interviewed a lot of people and I've handled a lot of interesting situations in search. And so we're going to meet every Friday at 11 a.m. to go for 30 minutes or so, however many questions there are. And if you have questions, again, drop them in the chat and we'll try to catch them here. The first question came in this morning earlier. Who is this from? I'm sorry. This is wow, whoever wrote this didn't do a good job with their penmanship. That might have been me. And one of the things I want to tell you is when we came on live today, we learned that there were new jobs created in the U.S. were 254,000, which was really robust. They were not expecting that. So we're still 44 months with uninterrupted job growth. So that's a good news. That's really great. We have to. It's probably going to come to an end. So you just need to plan your career accordingly. So that was good news. Other news that came in earlier today was CVS Pharmacy announced a layoff of 2,500. We are still waiting for Amazon to announce their layoffs, which may be fairly substantial. Most of these layoffs are not due to the economy. They're really due to management issues, or, in Amazon's case, during the pandemic, they really had staffed up to be able to meet demand. And now that demand has gone back to kind of a normal level. And so they are adjusting their people accordingly. So the last time they did a big layoff, I think there were something like 12 or 15,000, and it may be more this time. So we'll just wait to see on that. Okay, our first question. You talk about the importance of a career network in career management. Why is that so important? What does it mean for me? I'm a staff person and I'm a copywriter. This is really, why do I need a network? And that's really from Beverly in Plainview. Beverly, you need one because if you don't have a career network, you have to apply online. The online approach to finding a job is one of the most inefficient ways to find a job. You're going to have to file 50 to 100, 150 applications to get 1 interview or 2 interviews. And that's a common occurrence. We're hearing that all the time. Those numbers are showing up in a lot of news reports, and we hear about it a lot when we're talking to our clients. So if you have a network that's aligned with your career, your vertical, and you start needing to find a job or you want to look for a better job, you put out feelers to your network, people who would know this stuff. That's how you choose who your network should be comprised of. and you say, look, if you hear about anything in your organization, here's what I'm looking for. If you hear about anything, let me know, would you? That person, if they know you and like you and respect you, they'll bypass the computer bots and take you into the side door, as we call it, to the hiring manager. Now, they may ask you to submit your resume online, and that's where customization comes in. And I see we have a question about that in a few minutes. But it allows you a better opportunity to get seen by human recruiters. So that network can accelerate your job search time. It can bypass all of that computer stuff. And you're not, as the recruiting market becomes more automated, as more of the screening and sourcing process is done by computer bots and AI avatars, you really, really need to have a network. 60 to 70% of all the jobs, especially at the executive level, are not even published. So you're not going to see those on a website or necessarily on any job board. So the higher you go in the organization, the more important your network becomes. So I hope that answers your question, Beverly, and that everything in Illinois is good today. Let's see, another question. I'm a staff person. I don't need a network because I've never had trouble finding a job. And a lot of people say that, especially during the pandemic. It was something called the Great Resignation. People didn't like being taken for granted, particularly millennials and Gen Z. And so a lot of people just started looking for jobs. And what would have been called years ago job hopping, some people made 2 to 3 to 4. I think the most I've ever seen was 6. Over a two-year period. They changed jobs 6 times. And every time they got a better job with better pay, better benefits, and a better boss. But that's over. The Great Resignation, there's still some shortages at the staff level. But when you get to the executive level, there ain't no shortage. As a matter of fact, there's an oversupply of people versus the available positions. So if you're at a staff level, there's still some demand, and you might be able to change. Because you're in copywriting, I would build a network, really important, and I would think about making a career change. Why? Because yours is a job within 5 to 7 years that's going to be replaced. There'll still be senior level copywriters to review the work that the computers are doing, but that's just something that's going to happen. There are news organizations now that are they're creating all their content with AI, and they have editors to review the AI work, but they're not hiring reporters. How they're feeding the information is God only knows, but they don't have big newsroom staffs like they used to because that business model's changed. Anyway, the truth is, so if you're a copywriter, or if you're a payroll clerk, or if you're an accounting clerk, or if you're, whatever, HR clerk, and you feed information to the computer, your chances of keeping your job over the next 5 to 7 years or even longer is very, very slim. Mark Cuban is estimating that there may be 2, 3, 5, 7 million, 10 million jobs lost. And I think that is a great possibility. As this technology gets better, right now it's not great yet. I mean, it's good, but it's not great. As the businesses that are producing this learn how to start making money, the Chat GPT people at OpenAI are losing their knickers. It's just going to change the whole workforce environment setting. And so if you're somebody who manages the computers and can screen their recruiters, you're fine. But if you're below that and you're feeding up, you're gone. Your job is going to be toast. So that's another reason to get a network. Right now, you can make changes in the job market at a certain level without too much difficulty. It may take 3 to 6 months, but if you're an executive, it may take 8 to 14 months. So I hope I answered your question. I kind of meandered a bit. Sorry about that. But basically, the short answer is you don't necessarily need a network now, but you're going to need a network in the future. And guess what? Networking is not something you can build. A network is not something you can build overnight. Why? Because people you connect with are not going to refer you to jobs until they know who you are, until they develop a level of trust. So it's really important that you do that. And the longer you have to build a network, the better off you're going to be. Okay. What is the best resume format? Functional, chronological, or a curriculum vitae? Well, first of all, let's address the elephant in the room. The curriculum vitae is not the same as a resume. A vitae is something that is used in academic circles, scientific circles. Don't call it a curriculum vitae because you're basically telling the recruiter you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Scientists use curriculum vitae. You see it a lot in academic medicine when they're applying for faculty positions. If you're a physician or you're an executive and you're applying for a leadership position, you use the preferred format is chronological. I know some recruiters that if they submit a functional resume, they'll just throw it out. They won't even try to figure it out. And why? Because it's harder to track. The same reason with curriculum vitae. It's harder to track your employment dates and follow the trajectory of your career. So use the chronological format. You can go to our website at johngself.com, and if you can't get through to that because you live in some places overseas, that's because your area there have been a lot of reports and problems with malware and phishing. So phishing, and so you may not be able to get to it. But if you email me at john@johngself, I will send you a copy of our free resume guide. We put this together with colleagues in the executive search business, and the format is just kind of really nice, clean, extra, it has extra white space to make it easier to read. The computer doesn't care, okay? But once it gets to the computer doesn't care, but once it gets to the recruiter, that's when it makes the ease of readability or the ease of reading it is very important. So the best format is chronological. I did not, if you sent me a functional resume when I was doing executive search, I would send you an email saying it's great, but you'll have to send me a chronological resume to be considered. And some people didn't like it and they didn't get considered. Okay, but remember this: a curriculum vitae and a resume are not the same thing. So don't show yourself on that one. Is AI overhyped? This is from Dan in Idaho. I think it's underhyped. I don't think it's overhyped. I think it's underhyped. I don't think it's where it needs to be. But what I have seen in certain reports and in the literature, I get information on AI all the time. What I see happening, what I see coming down the pipe, what a lot of executives are saying about what they're going to be able to do with it, I think it's underhyped at the present time. But there are people who don't like it, and there are people when you tell them it's going to be very, very transformational, they get really upset because they don't want to hear bad news. Let me tell you something: you can get mad at bad news, but you're not going to win. You're not going to win, so you might as well learn to adapt. You will either adapt or die, in a figurative sense. So let's see what else we have here. What is the difference in? Our writing today has slipped to new lows. What is the difference between career, making a career change, and what's the important element? The important element is to have a plan. Okay, it's really, really serious. It's really important to have a plan and execute on that plan. Career changes are not something that generally happen overnight. And so you have to figure out, okay, what are my strengths, and how do these strengths apply to other industries? You got to be able to communicate how they will. The conventional wisdom is if you hadn't started in our industry, you won't understand our industry, and so we're not even going to talk to you. Well, there are a lot of companies that sometimes reach out outside their vertical to bring in people with different ideas. So if you're going to make a career change, that's good, but you have to have a plan and you have to execute on that plan. Okay, this is the one I was having trouble with, is the difference between a resume and a curriculum vitae. I've already answered that. Let's see. Is AI overhyped? It's underhyped, I think. What jobs are the most at risk with AI? And this is another Beverly. She's in Chico, California. If you are a accounting clerk, if you're a payroll clerk, if you're somebody who's feeding in the information up to the computer, you're at risk. Okay, there's no getting around that. If you're somebody at a high level who oversees the algorithms and keeps the machinery going effectively, then you're going to be okay. But if you're at the feeding it stage, your job is at risk. When will that happen? I would say, probably in the next 3 to 5 years. I would say you're really going to see significant leaps in development in that period of time. In the last 5 years, what they've done, and this has been going on for a long time, what they've been able to do with AI in the last 5 years is breathtaking. So it's now going to pick up and run a little bit faster. What does it mean to customize your resume? And this is Ricky where are you located? Atlanta. Okay. I assume that's Georgia. Ricky, what does it mean to customize your resume? Today, 98% of the companies in the United States are using AI, some form of AI automation, to scan your resume and to decide if you meet the qualifications for the job. That means that your resume, your algorithm that they're using to scan your resume is very position specific. Okay. Algorithms are, if they're done right, are position specific. Okay. Now, somebody called the other day and said, I spent $750 for a resume and they told me it was industry enhanced, so I didn't need to worry about customization. That is a large load of El Toro poo-poo. You absolutely have to customize for the job. Otherwise, you will not get picked. There's probably a 95% chance your resume will get rejected if it's not job specific. And you don't use keywords and phrases all through the resume. You can't just dump it in the professional summary. That kind of keyword dump gets you eliminated. That's as bad as submitting a resume with the typos and misspelled words in it. So don't do that. But what you have to go through and you say, okay, they want a robust history of doing X. They want somebody who's aggressive at this. You use those words, robust, aggressive. Every place that you can plug them in your resume where it makes sense, you need to do that. Okay. And because the more keywords and phrases you use from the algorithm, from the job summary that you pick up off of your computer when you're looking for online positions, you have to go through it carefully and decide what's important. We have a keyword worksheet you can use. I think it is also free. You can download that at johngself.com and click the little red bar on the right side of the home page. That'll take you to our course pages, and you can download it from there. Again, if you have any problems, you can email me at john@johngself.com. We've talked about the jobs that are at risk. We've talked about AI. We talked about customization of the resume. These are great questions. When should you submit your references? This person said, I believe you should submit them up front with your resume. No, don't do that. That's like sending a cover letter. It can foul up the computer, the applicant tracking system, AI. So unless they ask for a cover letter up front, clearly don't submit, because if you put the cover letter, literally the first document that you upload, that's going to be what the computer sees first. And if it's not a resume and you're not talking about all your experience, you're going to get a low scan score. So don't do that, because the chances are it could get you ejected from the search. And once you're ejected, unless you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, you're not going to get picked back up, because the clients have no idea who's submitting up unless somebody tells them. They have no idea who's submitting resumes. There's an ATS log that you can go through and open up and dig through it to find out if X, Y, or Z person has submitted a resume. But very, very, very few recruiters are going to ever go to that effort. If it's somebody really, really important, they've already gotten the resume from a trusted source. So let's get back to the references. References, you should have 4. If you're at the executive level, at least 4, not 3, but 4. And then we want that 4th person in case somebody's unavailable, out of pocket, in the hospital, whatever. you're not going to slow down the search. If you only have 3 and somebody gets hurt in a wreck or gets really sick, now you're down to 2, and now you're going to have to go recruit some more references. So because most employers are not going to hire with less than 3 references. I recommend 4, maybe even 5, and you want to pick people that are a superior, your former boss, a peer, somebody, a colleague that's at about the same level you are in the organization, a subordinate, somebody who reports to you, and a 4th one that can be any of the above. Recruiters are not interested in what your pastor has to say, what your accountant has to say, or anything else. They want to know about work-related accomplishments, knowledge, and so that's what they're going to be looking for. If you submit resumes that cannot answer basic questions about your performance, you're probably not. You may get eliminated from the search, because if recruiters hear too many times in an interview, well, I can't speak to that, or I can't really talk about that because I don't know. That's crazy. That's crazy. So you want to be sure that you really have references that can speak to your ability, that there are 4 of them in case somebody gets sick or hurt. You have somebody that can be plugged in. And you don't submit your resume, your references, until they are requested. And that is really important. Why? First of all, if you submit it with your resume, if it's online, the ATS might get screwed up. Secondly, when they ask for your references, you know that you're in the search and you're probably in the hunt. If you've already submitted your references, they got it. They're not going to let you know where you stand. Okay? So it's a good idea to hold on to your references until they request them. If they don't, that means you're not going to be advanced. So that's my advice. You don't have a lot of control over the process in the recruiting cycle. That's where you do have some control, and that helps you understand where you stand. It doesn't mean that you're going to get the job, because a lot of times they may check the references on the top 2 or 3 candidates. Let's see if we have anything else that's coming in. We've got about 8 or 9 minutes left. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat box on the YouTube. If you're watching this on replay, you can send them to John at johngself.com, and we will take them up next week. We'll be here every Friday morning at 11 a.m. Central Time to answer your questions. And so we'll hope you'll join us. And this is I'm working out of a new studio, technology studio, in my office, in my home, where I've delighted to be working since, a long time. In the executive recruiting business, people don't come to your office, you go to them. And so I don't have very far to commute to work. But there's a lot to this new studio. There's a lot of, sometimes the computer slows down. The mouse doesn't work well, and this is a fairly new, powerful computer, so I'm not sure what the heck's going on. So it's been a little bit distracting trying to learn this new system. So hopefully next week we'll be not distracted. Okay. Somebody said, how do you know what questions are going to be asked in the interview? This is Buster from Pittsburgh. Buster, there's only a limited number of questions you can ask relevant to a job performance or your job history. And so we suggest that you basically use a system called core and categorical. You break the job down into categories. The categories are typically finance, operational finance, finance in terms of bottom line, profit, loss, or contribution margin. Then your finance in terms of expense management, HR, how you manage your people, governance, how you report to a board or to somebody senior in the organization. That can be defined as governance as well. And you in every category, okay, you write down your strengths. Okay, your signature, 4 or 5 signature strengths in every category, which strengths apply to that category. Then write down your weaknesses, okay, because you may be asked that. I know you might not want to answer it, but that's how a lot of recruiters kind of measure your emotional intelligence, and that's an important element in recruiting, especially when you get to the executive level. Then you after you write your negative ones down, you kind of think about how you would answer those issues that are negative. and you want to be sure you have really good answers for the positive stuff. Okay, because you want to be able to take that and emphasize your successes. You have to sell yourself, and that's one way you can do it. Then everybody has made a mistake or two in their career. If you've got one of those, that's, I think what you have to do is just, you have to write a good answer in advance. You can't just go in there dreading that they might ask that to you and then not be prepared, because you're going to worry about it. And then when you do get asked that question, if and when it happens, you botch it up. You get nervous, you stammer, stutter, fumble, and mumble into the end zone, as Chris Matthews, what was his name, on Sports Center. Anyway, you stumble into the end zone. That's going to get you eliminated. So have a good answer for any setback. You may have been fired. Have a good exit statement for why that happened. If you were laid off, talk about how many people got laid off in the company. And if it was a big number, that's fine. I mean, there's no shame in being laid off. There's no shame even to be fired, unless it keeps happening over and over again. If you do have a mistake or you do get terminated for performance, you can talk about the lessons you've learned. Don't run away from this. Be authentic, be honest. But that can help you. That can really help you by having a question, identifying what maybe your exposures are, and then being ready to answer it. I have seen people time and again get jobs, even though they've been fired in previous employment, because they told a good story and they were able to communicate the lessons they've learned. Okay, so that's really important. We're running out of time today. We don't have any more questions coming in, so we want to invite you to join us next Friday. I think that we'll be on at 11 a.m. and hopefully this will be a little smoother operation. We do Tuesdays at noon. We do Lunch and Learn. Fridays Wednesdays at 4. My allergies are kicking up today. The wind is a little bit brisk here in Northeast Texas. Wednesday at 4, we do something called office hours. That's kind of one of our flagship programs. And then Friday morning at 11, we do your career questions, which is basically the question time under the brand name Career Line. So we really appreciate you being here. We're gonna get better at this. I'm not a TV guy, but we'll get better at this as we go forward. Until next Tuesday at noon on Lunch and Learn, we'll see you. If you're a newsletter subscriber, watch for our funny photos. They come out at 3 o'clock today, and we've got a couple of good videos there. And so we hope you enjoy the funny photos and video. And we will see you Tuesday. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for joining us.